Welcome. I am Sue Landay. This is Show and Share. And today I'm with Tina Robinson coming in from California. And this is Show and Share. So we are sharing how and learning how Tina uses tarot for leadership and coaching. So just to take a quick backup before I give you the stage, Tina, we met just a few months ago at the ATD Chapter Leaders Conference, where Tina gave a session and talked about using tarot cards in her professional life as well as it being a hobby. And I thought, we here at Trainers Warehouse embrace all kinds of unusual ways of thinking about things in training and teaching, and we kind of want to go off the beaten path. So here we are off the beaten path. And Tina, with no further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you so much. I just want to make sure, can folks see my slides?
We can.
Okay, but you can't see, you just see what you're supposed to see.
I see. We
Okay.
see your next slide also.
Oh, you
Yeah.
do? Okay, then
Yeah.
let me go ahead and switch that because that's what I was
Yeah. You
wondering.
mentioned that you were having a few technical difficulties.
Oh,
So
good
Interview,
golly.
papers
I'm just going
interview.
to swap. How's that? Does that work?
we're
Otherwise,
still, oh, there we go. We're good. Intuitive storytelling. Let's do it.
There we
Welcome.
go. Well, it is a delight to see everybody. Yes, I will say that my topic at the ATD chapter leaders meeting, I was the closing speaker, and they specifically wanted a session that didn't have to do with data, that wasn't talking about AI, that wasn't talking about frameworks, that wasn't talking about you know, all the stuff that those chapter leaders had been bombarded with all day. And I said, what if we did something about how do you trust your intuition as a leader, which is truly, truly, truly one of the most human things that we can do in the era of the robots. And my joke, because I was doing this in Los Angeles, is that look, if you live in LA, and I have at least one LA colleague on the call with me today, you are required by law to have at least one of these three things be true. One, you know your astrology chart. Two, you know how to read tarot. You possibly have a tarot deck in your purse. And three, you have at least one psychic medium on speed dial in your phone.
Now
That
I
is
know why I'm
required.
not an LAer.
It is
Los
requirement.
Angeles.
If there's any LA people on the call, I want you to say, yeah, that's part of the deal, living out here. Uh, so of course, I wove in reading one tarot card, and the gasp from the audience was like, right? It was like I basically, just put horns on my head and, brought out my broom and was like, let's go, right? And everybody loved it. I had a line of people after going, oh my gosh, I've never done that before. And a lot of people going, I want to bring this to my chapter. I hadn't thought about it in this way, but it was truly out of the box. And honestly, I have been doing this work, and I'll share my next slide, for a long time, as have many of you. Um, my toolbox is huge. I can do disc with my eyes closed. I can do strengths with my eyes closed. You pick a tool or a framework, and I've likely done it like all of you have. And so the idea of trying something different, the idea of bringing something new into our facilitation toolbox is so exciting and so cool. And I think that's where some of the magic came from that session, is people just going, oh my gosh, what if we tried something new in a way that was going to speak to our audience? So I am very quick to say, look, yes, I've been reading tarot cards since 2012. I've been studying astrology since I was a little kid. And I wrote a book. I went to business school, and I spent 25 years in the corporate world, and I've led HR functions. I have a lot of street cred when it comes to being able to talk business talk. And I have spent a lot of years trying to integrate these parts of me. And integration, interestingly, is a theme of tarot. How do I be my authentic, quirky self that likes to play in both worlds and not feel like I have to shut any of them out. Um, so this is me. I live here in LA, grew up on the East Coast, and I would love to link with you if we're not already linked. So that's just a little
Oh
QR
my
code
God.
to what? Oh, somebody just had a gasp of something. Okay, so we're going to do this. We're going to have some fun. Um, how many people know we just had a solar eclipse? Hand raised in chat. Let me know. Total solar eclipse visible over part of Europe. So Spain, Portugal, Iceland were able to see the path of totality. We didn't get to see it here in the US. We saw one 2 years ago. Solar eclipses are times of beginnings and endings. They're a time of release of what is no longer working, what no longer serves us, what has outgrown its purpose, so we can have the capacity and the space to bring something in new. So I'm going to ask you a question. What wants more space in your life right now? And you are going to base your answer to that in chat on this card. Now, my suggestion, trust your first hit. Trust that first instinct. Share in chat. What do you want more space in your life for right now? Okay. I'm seeing stuff come up. Love, love, love. Um, Also, feel free to go off of mute if you want to. I'm going to keep an eye on time, but if you are more of a out loud person versus a chatty chatter, that's totally fine. Um, okay, so I'm seeing healing, I'm seeing travel, I'm seeing time with children, flowers, organization, connections, gardening, time for projects, joy, self-care. So this card, it's the sun card. It is the second, it's the second to last card in the deck. There's this card, there's one more card, and then there's the last card. It is exactly what you're seeing here. Look at all the symbology related to the sun, the sunflowers, this flame kind of scarf, this idea of innocence, of true joy. When you see children, especially children who were just running around naked. We all did that as little kids. It's this feeling of unbridled joy. Nothing is holding us back. Um, Having fun, letting ourselves be fully illuminated. And all of you captured some of that sense of spontaneity, that sense of me that Elizabeth says. Um, this eclipse was in Leo, which is the sign of the zodiac ruled by the sun. So I truly picked this card at random. This is the card that came up when I picked it for this exercise. And I went, well, of course it did. We just had an eclipse of the sun in Leo, the sign ruled by the sun. Hashtag astrology is real. Okay. So congratulations. You are now all officially tarot card readers. Boom, mic drop. If that was one of your bucket lists, you have achieved it. You all read a card. That's what reading a card is. It is not magic. It doesn't require years of study. It doesn't require you to put on a special hat. You just looked at a picture and interpreted it. So, what is tarot? Now, I'm going to ask, let me know in chat if we have any folks on the call who already read cards. If tarot's already in your toolkit, either personally or professionally, let me know in chat or shout out loud. Here we go. Okay. So Heather says she's had readings, possibly by me. Heather's a good friend. Um, uh, and she lives in LA, so she is legally required to have readings. So Sandrine has said, I read cards. Lisbeth says, I have a deck. My deck sat for 7 years on my shelf. I kept looking at it and I wasn't ready. So maybe you'll be ready after this. She's received the Sun card before. Renee had a reading last week. Okay, Renee, I love it. I hope to hear from you. What is tarot? It originated as a card game in Italy in the 15th century. So the earliest
Okay.
tarot decks, as we know them today, come from about the mid 1400s. It is a deck of 78 cards that features archetypal pictures. These are patterns and images recognized across cultures. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tarot decks out there. The most traditional deck is known as the Rider-Waite deck, and that's just based on the publisher of the deck. But there are so many decks out there. The way that I describe tarot, this is a deck of cards you can buy on Amazon. I do not want to give
Or
Jeff
from Trainer's
Bezos
Warehouse.
or from Trainer's Warehouse, even better. Thank you for the plug, Sue. Um, you can buy them at Trader's Warehouse, on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, wherever you go. It's not a magic deck of cards. Where the magic comes in is if we give the cards permission for us to tap into our intuition. Humans have been telling stories through pictures way longer than they have been telling stories through sentences. We have been communicating and we have been inspired by imagery much longer than we have been inspired by words. The earliest cave paintings were not sentences, they were not paragraphs, they were not haikus, they were images. And in a world that is dominated by words and by sentences, this gives us permission to use imagery, to tap into our inner voice, to trust our intuition, to sort of quiet our logical, left-brained, what is AI telling me to do right now, brain, in order for different parts of us or different parts of our clients, internal or external, to show up. So that is how I have always interpreted the cards. And usually when I ground people in this idea that all we're doing is we're using these cards to tell a story, and it's your story. There are interpretations of the cards. There's traditional meanings of the cards. When I'm using cards to coach, I will often say, how would you like to do this reading? Or how would you like us to use the cards? Do you want to tell me the story that you are seeing, and then I may layer in some meaning or ask you some questions? Or do you want me to start with an interpretation and then let you follow up on it? Again, very coachy, to put it back, to put the ownership and the autonomy and the agency back on the other person. And I've had both.
Hmm.
Some people go, I want to hear from you. And then other people go, you know what? I want to tell the story. Somebody had a question.
Kind of interesting to have it go back and forth too, isn't it, Tina?
Mhm.
Even if they just start so you kind of know where they want to go,
Yep.
I think would be interesting.
So I use tarot, great points. I use tarot for a lot of things. Like I said, I've been reading since 2012. There are weeks will go by when I don't touch them. And then there are weeks that go by when I'm using them every day. So sometimes if I need to untangle my own thoughts, if I need to bring clarity, if I need to just remind myself that my inner voice is powerful, that my intuition is true, if I need to pull back from AI and go, Tina, why are you trusting the robots that are just spewing out, collected web stuff? Why don't you go back and trust your inner voice? When I'm trying to just get a sense on the current energy to make sense of something that's swirling, if I want to open or close a coaching session or a facilitation session, and I'll say I don't lead with this. I wait to understand my client. I wait to understand the situation. Some of my clients probably have no idea that this is a part of me, even though I write about it on LinkedIn, I write about it in my newsletter. I'm very open about it, but I don't force it on anybody. It is a tool in my toolbox, just like I wouldn't force Clifton Strengths on somebody or DISC on somebody or uh, Enneagram or any tool that is core to who you are. We wait to see what tool is right and best for the situation.
So, Tina, can I ask you, when you come to use the deck when you're picking it up, do you find that you're coming to it with a specific question or kind of a completely blank slate? And does that matter?
It's a great question. Um, yes, and um, let me actually go forward because there is
Yeah,
this
sorry, I didn't
idea.
mean to interrupt your
No,
flow.
no. This is great. It's a dialogue. Just forgive me because you know, I'm a slide nerd. Um, there's such a thing called a spread. So some
You
of
know
you,
what? You just skipped a whole bunch of
I
cards.
did. I'm going to
Let's
go
come
back.
back to the
No, no,
we introduce the cards first?
I'll go
You go.
back.
You take it. Okay, okay, go ahead.
I'll go back. Your question was, do you need a question in mind?
Yeah.
Yes and no. It depends. Um, most of us have an intention because we're choosing the cards in the first place. So we probably have a question in mind, or there is something that we're trying to figure out, or
Mm,
else we wouldn't go there. There's if we're using any tool, it's because we have something that we're trying to accomplish with it. So I would say yes, and yes, it helps to have a question. It doesn't have to be well formed. If I am really struggling and I'm like, I don't even know, or if someone comes to me and they're like, I want a reading, but I don't even know what I want to talk about, sometimes I'll just say, what is fill in the blank? Spirit, the universe, the collective unconscious, the energy want us to know right now. So if I put that out there, what does I call it? The universe, spirit, energy, the force. What does it want me to know right now? And I pick a card, and I picked the Five of Pentacles, which for me is very much a card about take advantage of the resources that are in front of you. Go through the doors that open up. Don't focus on your sense of lack. Um, remember that all you have to do is look up outside of your email problems and tech issues and blah, blah, blah. And remember that there are resources available to you, but it's really easy to get very stuck on our own. Woe is me. Boom.
mm.
That was just what is the message right now? So let me go back. I wanted this, and I'm keeping an eye on the time because I do want to give some time for questions. And I will be gifting all of you with these slides. So a little bit about the deck. Again, there are hundreds of tarot decks out there. I tend to use a very traditional one. It's 78 cards. There's two arcana or two stories. The first 22 cards go from 0 to 21, and they're the tarot cards that many of us have heard of. If you watch tarot readings in a movie or a TV show and you see cards like the devil or the hermit or death, those are in the first part. They tend to represent sort of the big karmic stuff. They're big archetypes. You show somebody a picture of the hermit, and you're going to get a lot of similar words. You show somebody a picture of the sun. You show somebody pictures of death. And there are certain words because these are such classic archetypal images in the human experience. And it really tells the story, a very human story of innocence to enlightenment, from potential with zero and the fool to manifestation and achievement with the world. That is the very human story. And the cards tell that story. And they tell it in a sort of a compelling way. Um, if you're using this with your clients, you don't have to use all the cards. Curate the deck. There are some cards in some decks where the images are naked, like our friend the star up here. Depending on the client, I may not want to use naked women pictures. That's fine. Make the deck your own. The way that the deck tells the story is that the first seven cards tell the story of sort of our early development, our basic learning in the real world. We learn how to deal with authority. We learn how some early lessons in um, sort of the resources that are available to us. The next part is about um, we start asking why, we start going inward, we start to awaken. These cards become very personal, and then the cards become even bigger. This is our sort of transcendence. It's when we really start to step into, we emerge from the darkness, and then we step into the light. And all of these cards have very layered meanings, very layered imagery, and yet they can also give you that first hit just like the sun. So the next part of the deck is broken up into four suits, just like a deck of playing cards, and they're elemental. So um, Earth, I'm sorry, pentacles or coins ruled by Earth, which are grounded. What grounds us? What are the resources we have to live this life, this very human life? Um, Wands, what ignites us? What drives us? What lights us up? Swords, ruled by air. What inspires us? What sparks our mind? And then cups, ruled by water. What nourishes us? What nurtures us? What fills us up? Tied to relationships. The numbers go from ace to 10, just like in a deck of playing cards, and then we get some court cards. This is a little bit more complex, even though some of the images make a lot of sense. And again, if you're using this as a tool, just like with any tool in our toolbox, curate it. Pick the cards that are easy for your clients to do something with, to tell a story with, the cards that you feel a little bit more comfortable with. And there are traditional meanings of the cards, and yet every time I do a reading with somebody and I get their interpretation, I go, oh, man, wow. I love that. There's always nuance. There's always something somebody sees in the cards. And just like that's sort of our relationship with images. So many resources out there. When I gave Sue an early handbook that I had, I realized it was pre-AI. We can remember vaguely a time that we actually had to use websites. Um, and even that before then, we had to use these weird paper things called books. Um, there are some great websites out there. Biddy Tarot, I remember when she launched her website. She's a woman in Australia. Um, and she's delightful. She has a podcast. She's a very active website. Um, and I remember when she launched it. So I've been doing this a while. Great resources. Also, some other websites here. And AI is actually pretty good too, because AI is just scraping all of the tarot knowledge out there. A word of caution if you're using AI to pull cards for you, which you can. You can actually ask AI to be your tarot card reader or to help you interpret cards. AI, unless you specifically tell it to pull the cards randomly, it will default to pulling cards that you want to hear. How many people have learned that AI is like a very eager puppy dog that just wants to make you happy?
Hmm.
And I was early in my experimentation with AI and tarot. I was like, oh, that's the perfect card for this. That's the perfect card. I went, oh, oh. And I had to basically it would put a rule in to say, I want these to be absolutely random. So I asked the robots what I should tell you, and it gave me this language, which I will share with everybody.
And so I
So
also just put in the chat the guide that we put together that we worked on based on some of your notes, um, in how to kind of apply this to training, what sort of exercises you can use that kind of go a little bit further than what you've shared today.
So love that. Your homework is that. It is also just start pulling cards. If this is at all interesting to you, if you have a deck, great. If you don't have a deck and want to buy one, great. If you want to use AI as your deck, great. Just pull a card.
Yeah, use it to stimulate your thinking. Um,
Exactly.
Tina, here's a question. We found this deck that we thought that the imagery was great. I'm just going to hold up a couple of the cards. Going to take down your screen share for a second.
Okay. And then I will put it, and then I'll stop sharing and then I will come back. So,
Okay, there we go. Uh, so the examples in our deck, and I don't know, maybe this isn't great, but here's the sun, which is different from yours. Like, do you
mhm.
think that any deck that people have can do the same thing? And here's like the five pentacles that you used in your example. Does it matter what deck, or do you feel like the point is the big archetypes, the telling the story, giving people images to respond to, and the actual specific extras don't matter? Like, how do you think about that?
All of you are going to laugh because I'm going to give a very consulting answer, which is it
It
depends.
depends.
How many consultants does it take to screw in a light bulb, right? We're not as bad as lawyers. Any lawyers on the call, love you.
Sorry.
Um, if you are truly wanting to learn tarot, like actually learn it as a tool, I think it helps to start with a very traditional deck only because most of the books and websites and resources out there are based on the traditional deck. So if you want to become a student of tarot, that might help. If you're using tarot just for the imagery and for the pop, and you don't care as much about, well, what does the Six of Pentacles really mean? And and going into the deeper traditional meanings, and you're using it as imagery to spark insight, then I think that's where pick the deck that has images that speak to you. So it's a yes
Thank
and.
you. Fair.
For me, I'm a traditionalist, but it's because I study numerology. I study the chakras.
Mm.
I study color. I study astrology. There's stuff in the decks about Kabbalah. I love that. I'm a complete geek nerd when it comes to that. So I like the layers. I have friends who have decks that are all about the images and much um, because those decks speak. Heather had her hand raised, or she's just high-fiving me, which, okay.
Heather.
Oh, yes, I do have a question. I'm sorry. I wasn't sure that you were done. So Tina, when you work with either one-on-one with a client or with a group, training class or what have you, facilitation, tell us about doing the tarot work online with a client, because we do a lot of online work as well as in person. So when you're doing virtual work, again, either one-on-one or with a group, can you tell us how is the card picked or et cetera?
I absolutely will. I am going to do a shameless plug. I promised you all the slides, and I want to just put the QR code up here if you want the slides. Also, yes, we're all facilitators. You know what I'm doing. I'm getting some of your information. It's always up to you if you share it. If you share it, you also will telling me if you would like a personalized reading, which is my gift to the people who are on this call. If any of you would like to set up time with me, I will reach out to you personally to offer that. If you're like, I don't know about this deck thing, but I like Tina, or she's weird enough that I want to have a call. Um, but also, I will give you all of these slides. And so, to Heather's question, it's funny, I just closed out a coaching relationship with somebody. I do some contract coaching with an organization, and I just had my last session with somebody, and he wanted a tarot reading from me as our last session. I'm like, excellent. Um, and we pulled cards like, what was your what was your biggest learning?
Oh,
What
so
part of yourself?
I'm sorry, pardon me for interrupting with I think what I'm really asking is a little more of a
Yeah,
technical question. You're
please.
online with somebody.
Oh,
So
yeah.
how does the card actually get pulled? Because the person isn't
Oh,
shuffling, the person isn't pulling their card. So how is that done so that it really is that person's card, if you will?
great question from a lovely person.
Thank you.
So, um, It's a little bit why at the very beginning I talk about tarot and I talk about this idea that all we're doing is we're tapping into something larger.
Yeah.
Call it again the collective unconscious, which is what Carl Jung, who actually used tarot and was a big archetype guy, um, the collective unconscious, energy, spirit. If you have more religious leaning clients, some people call it God force. Um, George Lucas called it the force, whatever you call it. Let's call it energy for purposes here. Energy is energy. I don't need to be sitting with Heather to be able to tap into it. We can both tap into it. So if you sort of have that initial buy-in up front, then if I sit here and I'm shuffling, usually what I do is as I'm talking to my client, I'll just shuffle. And I'll just be shuffling the deck. And then at some point, usually you're trusting yourself. Some people have rituals where they might say, client, you tell me when to stop shuffling. So the client has some agency. So they feel like, okay, stop. And then good. And then I'll just use that. Um, I do a lot of my readings virtually. Now, if you're in a session and you're using it as a facilitation tool, I have done sessions, again, if it sort of aligns with the client and everything, I've passed around my deck and everybody just picks a card. You have never seen people geek out so much as passing around a tarot deck and they all get to pick a card. Um, Now, again, you can curate the deck if there's cards in here where you're like, I don't know if I want to have the devil card. That might just open up something. But, if you have a client that's totally open to it, then great. So hopefully that answered your question, is that you can have a ritual that brings some agency from the client. Hey, stop shuffling right now. Um, but it's really energy, and that transcends Zoom or Teams.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, hope that helps. Welcome
We're
other questions.
we're at the half hour. Just want to acknowledge that. Let's stay on for another few minutes, but if anyone needs to go or has a question before they go, let us know. And if not, Tina, I just want to say thank you. This is so fun. Um,
Oh,
so it's just refreshingly different to
it
me.
is different. It's not going to be for everybody. It's not going to be for every situation. But as somebody who's been doing this work for a very long time, I love having tools in my toolbox that are unconventional, that are, um, you know, that go beyond, especially at a time when I do think we need to wake people up and get into their brains and hearts in different ways. Renee has a hand up.
Yes.
I can wait if anybody wants a question before they have to go. I usually hang out anyway.
And also in chat too. So don't hesitate if in chat. And also I will put my email address in here that hopefully will work because I was having email problems. And just in case, for whatever reason, you don't hear back from me, I'm going to give you my other email address because all good. But welcome thoughts in chat, and also would love to stay in touch with everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, Tina. Yes, Renee, please.
All right. So I did say that I had a reading last week. I was at a conference in Madison, and I've never been to this conference before. It was super cool. It was CultureCon. It was amazing. However, I got to connect with one of the very, very many attendees, and he had in his jacket, he had his tarot deck. And I believe that he made his own deck. So, first question is, that's fine, right? Because I mean, he's a facilitator, also does all sorts of stuff, but he created his own deck and it's out there in the world. So he's like, "Hey, you want to do a reading?" I'm like, "Absolutely, let's give it a shot." So I'm looking, I keep looking down at my screen for my three cards that I selected from his deck because he did the three, so the three card spread. So not traditional at all, but do you feel like that can still be a good use of tarot especially if he's focused in on what I put out to him, because he did say what's going on, and let's talk about it. And then I split the cards, and he gave me my three cards. And I mean, I mean, they're funny and I don't want to say they're comical, but they're not as traditional. So are you running into that a lot as a tarot reader, tenured tarot reader? Say that three times.
Tina, the tenured tarot reader. I
Oh,
I
love
love
me,
it.
love me some alliteration. What was the outcome? How did you feel walking away?
You know what? I actually really appreciated it because I'd never done a reading before. I mean, I don't know, um, oh my gosh, words and places out east, out down here. But it's been decades. And so I got the three cards that I got. I'll just read them to you. I got running from a giant accountant. My second card was the LinkedIn Maniac, and the third one was the Gospel Choir Serenading.
Hmm.
So I put that in because I just launched my own business a couple months ago, and so we talked about that a little bit. Like for a couple seconds, we talked about it, and so he went through some of those things, and I actually connected with it. I'm like, you know what? His name's Jeff. I won't give his last name because I know that, but I'm like, I actually really enjoyed this. And I thanked him for it. And I think throughout the conference, I think he said he did 65 readings for different
Yeah.
participants, just at random. And it was only a couple of minutes, and I probably could have spent a long time with him, but I was just wondering how you're feeling about people that are making their own decks for this purpose.
I love it. And also I love the cards. Running from the accountant, you just started your own business. There's probably some money, some money fears, I mean, any one of us who's independent, um, yeah, you have to have a different relationship with money and a different relationship with your finances. And so, and also the scrutiny of your finances that an accountant can put on it. Totally see that. I think you mentioned one of them was related to LinkedIn. You're running your own business. The burden, the gaping hole that is social media that is always hungry and never filled. Um, there's that. Um, and the gospel choir, which is something about it working independently is speaking to your soul. Um, and so there is no good, bad, right, wrong, best, worst. I just did a disc workshop for 80 people, and I say that again and again about disc profiles. There is no good, bad, right, wrong, best, worst profile. There is no good, bad, right, wrong, best, worst deck. You need a deck. If you're going to be the one using it as a tool, you need a deck that speaks to you. And if you have a few decks, just like you need tools. I know some people who don't like Clifton Strengths. It just doesn't speak to them. They'll use it, but it's not really a tool that they like to use. They prefer to use something else. I know people who, love True Colors, but not so much disc. Fine. If we see tarot as a tool that's based on imagery, then we need to have the imagery work for us. I mean, I applaud him. Creating your own deck's a lot of work. Um, but I think it's great.
Yeah,
And if the
it
deck
gets you
spoke
kind
to
of
you,
thinking,
it's great.
thinking differently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank
love
you,
that.
Renee.
And yeah, if you start carrying a deck around with you and you're at a conference and you let people know, I will promise you, even people who are skeptical will be like, I want a reading. Pull a card for me.
So
Other questions?
interesting. Any more questions?
So I'm afraid I'm not terribly creative, so I'm having trouble thinking of like like what I would say if I'm trying to like use tarot to wrap up a session to encourage like reflection. What would that look like?
Great question. And another plug, I'm happy to share. If I have your information, I'm happy to share some sample questions with you. It's if you're wrapping up, um, if you're wrapping up something one-on-one and want to use it as, what's your biggest takeaway from today? It's a question you can ask and probably do ask when you're coaching one-on-one. The card just is a jump start. Let's use this card to inspire this this question.
Okay, so like what you did at the start of this session.
Yeah. You can use it
Okay.
to open up and say, what is an intention that you have? Like if I said, actually, let me go back because I will actually have everybody do this. If you're open, this is something that I thought we could do. Um, this is the card. Use this to inspire your answer to this question and throw the answers in chat. What do you want to carry forward from today? I just blew your minds, freaked you out, possibly. You're thinking outside the box a little tiny bit. You're ready to play. You're adding a tool to your toolbox. You're imagining a tool. What do you want to carry forward? And we're going to use the hangman, which is really the card that I pulled randomly for this. I love that. This idea of what do you want to carry forward from today is embrace new ideas. New perspectives. That is exactly that is the traditional meaning of this card. This idea of sometimes we need to like truly look at the world differently. The coaching techniques that we use when we have people move around, or if we're doing facilitation, we have people moving to see things differently. Sometimes we need to stand on our heads for just a second to see things differently. Maybe we have to let go of old ways of seeing things. Exactly.
So fun.
So that's could be a way of using
Really
it.
good question.
Yeah. Or default question, what is your inner voice telling you right now? What is your intuition saying to you? And if you ask that question without a card, folks might go, "Bah, ah," because we have a hard time going inward. Give them a card and suddenly, bloop, you can open up the door a little bit more easily. It cracks the window.
That was a great ending question, a great wrap up. And I'm going to stop the recording. Let me say thank you, Tina. So fun. Once again, I really appreciate your being here and you're helping us think about this.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Honored to be here. It's such a delight to meet everybody. Would love to stay in touch with you. And for the folks on the call, Kaja and Heather, who are dear, dear friends, I want to say thank you so much for joining. And if I missed anybody else who I know on the call, again, so honored that you were here. And yeah, reach out to me.